Welcome to the Animal Turn podcast. I'm Catherine Oliver, and today I'm interviewing Claudia in a turn of events. So, welcome to your podcast, Claudia. It's great to see you and to be invited to do this. I'm really excited to talk about your research today. And the concept we're going to focus on is problematization. And in your thesis, you explore problematization with the urban cows of Kingston. And I guess problematization, before I read your thesis, wasn't a concept I actively thought about. I wasn't like, it was just like a phrase almost taken for granted in some ways. That might be my disciplinary background. It might just be that, that isn't a phrase that I was thinking about in that way. So I guess let's open by why think about problematization? What does it mean? What is that concept?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I think problematization is really, I think it's important. So often when we talk about animals, we think about the ways in which they've been objectified, right? We'll often say that animals are objectified as property, they're objectified as commodities, for example, and that when we view them as these kinds of objects, as a commodity that can be bought and sold, as a piece of property that can be owned, we disavow the fact that they are sentient experiential beings, right? So that objectification does more than just a label. It's a way of kind of imagining the world and a way of also, I think, creating policy about how the world is structured. But another way in which I think animals are often objectified, so there's commodities, there's property, is as problems. I think very often in policy, animals only make an appearance as problems. And I think this is particularly the case when it comes to urban policy. So if we've got, let's say, a whole host of regulation or policy and the way in which we view a particular species or a particular group, it doesn't necessarily happen across species lines. You could, for example, have strays, which could include both cats and dogs and a variety of other animals. But when they're kind of legislated, I think, as being problems, I think this creates opportunities for them to act and it forecloses opportunities for them to act. And them, I mean both the regulators and the animals. So I think imagine it as yourself, right? Like imagine someone in a school and you have been labeled as a problem child, whatever the problem is. Maybe it's a learning difficulty, maybe it's a behavioral problem. The second you get labeled as being a problem, different actions come into play. The principal gets involved, different rules are put in place. Maybe you broke some rules and now you have to go to detention so different kind of policing mechanisms get put in place the second you get labeled as a problem or problem child. And not only are the regulations different, your choices to act become different. So now you've been labeled as a problem child and you have to go to detention. So this is a claim on your ability to move. It's a claim on your autonomy, right? And a lot of this is to do with the fact that you've now been, in some regards, objectified as a problem. So there's this tension between objectification and subjectification. Once you become objectified as a problem, the ways in which you can be a subject or respond or be in the world changes. And it opens some opportunities and it closes some opportunities. So just to bring it back to animals, the reason I think problematization is so important is because if the only or one of the primary ways we view and understand and epistemically think about animals is as problems, I think we miss out on a lot of other ways of viewing them. And we kind of we delimit the ways in which they can live in the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and it opens up new avenues, right, for thinking. If we think about how animals are conceptualized as problems, we can rethink them beyond that commodity or property, which is the traditional way of thinking about actually how does becoming a problem change things.